Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Full Time Football Show on YouTube.
Here we are.
It's 6 episodes in and we made the big time.
Right, big fuzzies here tonight.
Don't know about that.
Unfortunately for anybody watching this has to look at this. But we're two athletes, that makes up for it. Absolutely. Joined by Jordon Forster.
Thank you very much for having me.
Been on the show before.
Pleasure,
Well,
The previous one, yes.
Previous one.
Happy to come back and privileged to be invited back in it.
And that's
I've
for
done
coming
something
on.
right.
Thanks for coming on. How's it been?
It's been good, mate. Obviously been back training for the last 2.5 weeks now, so just getting back into like the swing of things. Obviously been like furloughed and not been involved in any kind of football for the last 6 months nearly. It's been really weird getting back into things, but obviously nice to have a kind of routine again. Get out of the house is probably the biggest factor. But listen, it's just nice to be back with the boys, back involved in obviously what I've known for my entire life. So it's just nice to be gradually getting involved again.
See, like during the lockdown and that, were you asked to like keep fit, or did you just do your own stuff anyway?
No, we got programs. I think a lot of boys have been on Strava. I think a lot of clubs have done that, and just to try and not that they didn't trust boys and that, but I think the clubs knowing how long things were going to go, they could say let's just do your own thing. But I think when it's just like going out a 5k run or whatever it is, it isn't enough. So we had probably a few weeks not doing too much, and then we got sent I think it was something like 2 weeks on, 1 week off for the rest of it. So it was hard, to be fair. I think obviously like we're just running outside and not being on pitches and that, it took its toll a little bit, but at the end of the day, mate, that was all that could be done. So to be fair to the boys at Dundee, we went back and the boys were super fit. I'm sure a lot of the boys at other clubs would have been, but I think nobody will ever went back to a pre-season as fit as you have. So it's obviously been done its job, and it was tough while we're doing it, but the hard work's kind of done now. So go back and get back playing football.
Do you think, as you mentioned there, players using Strava and things like that, do you think that might be something clubs do in the future to
I think
extend your time away for the club, maybe give you an extra week off? Or
I think so. I mean, you can yourself, like when you go away, and especially in Scotland, you didn't get that long off. Obviously in England it's different, So you can, but it's more intense than this, so you kind of need a break. Whereas up here, if you're only playing one game a week, and let's say the average player might play 40 games a season, I think you do only need maybe 4 or 5 weeks off. It's important to take a couple of weeks to rest and go away, go on holiday, recharge your batteries, more mentally than physically. But I think certainly, obviously, it's 21st century. There's, technology and social media, everything like that. Everyone's under the spotlight as it is. So I think it's a good way for clubs to keep an eye on players, because listen, there'll be sort of players, you can't just sell. There'll be players at clubs that do want to take care of themselves and keep fit, but there's the other side of the coin as well. Boys want to go away and piss up for fucking 6 weeks and come back and shit next. So
exactly,
I think it will be something that they might put into place going forward. Now that they've used it over lockdown, I didn't see really any reason why they wouldn't continue to use it in years to come.
It is. It's a decent thing. Like, I mean, I was using it myself to do, like, obviously I noticed all the players were like using this app on their phone, and you could see them like going for runs and that. So it was even like just the general public were using it as well. And it was just something that. And then you find yourself competing against people, and all the people are score at what they got on their 5k run, so you go and try and beat it and that. And obviously you though yourself, like I know from training with you at Hibs, like you kept yourself mega fit, and you're always in the gym. So I'd like to say more players were like you, but they're not, are they really? I mean, like, there's only a handful really in a dressing room that really look after themselves, like to the extreme level. Do you know what I mean? Which you do, which is brilliant. But there's obviously, like you say, that handful that just completely switch off.
Yeah, I think it's the same in probably any walk of life. Do you know what I mean? You're going to have people that, it doesn't mean to see the bad football players. You tend to find it's the better players technically that switch off a little bit more than the boys like me that aren't so sort of technically gifted and probably not necessarily need to work harder for a living. But do you know what I mean? I like to think that what I do and try and take care of myself kind of makes up that little bit of gap where other players maybe better football players than me. So for me, it's always been a non-negotiable kind of thing, working hard, and I try to take care of myself the best way I can. Oh, don't get me wrong, I still go and have a piss up now and again, but as you say, there's boys in every changing room that will abuse the trust, so to speak. Without obviously fucking slandering boys, but they'll go away and they'll make the most of it too much, kind of thing.
Do you think, I've got a serious question, there's no one here, but do you think, so you mentioned the boys there who might abuse it, who might know if it's Strava or another app or whatever, the boys do abuse it and they don't use it properly. So you mentioned yourself there, maybe not the most technically gifted player, so you need to make up that gap by being physically as fit as you can be.
Certainly.
Do you think boys who aren't technically there, I don't want any names or that, aren't technically there, but also who physically sack it off as well, so when they go into a game and they're having an absolute nightmare, do you think, and perhaps they might let the team down and the manager gets some flack, and then you as a player and as a teammate of that player, you know that player's not done enough, maybe pulled the wool over the manager's eyes, and it's him who might take the flack for getting beat against maybe a lesser team, for example.
I think that's why it's maybe a good thing, because it gives you the accountability. Do you know what I mean? You can before Strava, you can go away, come back, and you can be in shit nick and whatnot, but that maybe goes under the radar because you're back at pre-season. Everyone's kind of like maybe the older mindset. Everyone comes back a bit shit. That's why you've got pre-season to get fit. But I think especially even in lower leagues in Scotland, lower leagues all over the fucking world, that the game's changed so much, and you didn't necessarily need to be a brilliant football player. So it's all about being athletic, not being strong, but being athletic, being fast, being not always being injured and stuff like that. So I think it gives boys good accountability, and do you know what I mean, if you've not done your work, the manager can say, well, you've not done your work and you've been shite in the game, so why the fuck should I play you? Why should I pick you? Do you know what I mean? Whereas before you can come and say, oh, I have done the work, I'm just not as fit as the other lads. Do you know what I mean? So it's there in black and white. And again, it's no like, I don't think it's necessarily a trust thing, but do you know what I mean? It's there. If you've not done the work and you're not playing well, then those are two crosses against your name. I'm not going to play you. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, boys are a little bit better. We'll get away with it if they've not done the work, but the manager needs them to play. But especially for players as well, like you say, if I go into training, I'm not saying this is exactly what happens, but if I go into training pre-season and I'm running and fit and blah blah blah, you know what I mean? I've got boys that I know that have not done things, and maybe they're playing, and it almost gives not a certain player the right to say, well, look at what I've done. I've done everything you've asked me to do. I've turned up, done this, and I've done this. I'm playing alright, he's not playing very well, he's done fuck all, so what's going on? So I think it gives everybody a bit of accountability and a bit of almost evidence and proof to go in and say whatever you need to say.
Because you've got that to back you up, man. It's a decent
That's
thing.
it, mate, 100%, because you can't what it's like sometimes if you're not playing in that, it's hard to go in and say this, that and the next thing, but with this, especially at this time of the year, you go in and say, well, I've done my bit, and he's no, so what's happening? I'm not saying that's what happened, that's what's happened.
No. I just thought I'd ask a question. I was listening to an interview with Frank Lampard earlier on, and he was saying he wasn't the most technically gifted player. But
I don't know what that makes me then, me saying that.
And he was talking about when he was having a hard time at West Ham and he was getting slated for his uncle being the manager and things like that, and his dad would give him a type, and it said it wasn't until his 20s where he kind of shook that off, and he was saying he had to work on his physical side and practice. So I just wondered, as a player, current player yourself, like you've answered my question there.
As I say, I think it just gives everyone the accountability and proof that what you've done or what you've not done, and then from there, do you know what I mean? If you're playing well and you've not done anything, fair enough, because you're playing well. But do you know what I mean? As soon as someone's not playing well, it almost gives you that
ammunition.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. Ammunition to go on and say something.
Another question I had for you, off the back of the first interview, we were talking about the Livingston thing about the transfer. Do you have any comments to that about that? Anybody?
No, well, a couple of people. To be fair, a couple of people, probably closer friends that listen to it, spoke to me about it, and obviously I've never really disclosed that kind of information apart from anyone in my family that really know about it. So they spoke to me about it, and they were obviously just a bit surprised. But again, mate, I have never spoke to anybody about it, and it's almost like it's something people find very difficult to understand. And so they obviously been at that age. You've been, like I said to you, what, I was 11, 12 years old, and that might happen when you're 25 and you're in a profession, like a real professional, and it is a business and stuff like that. But when I was saying it, I was 11 years old, I was just a kid.
What was it that went on like, Jordan? Like,
so when I think it was about 11 or 12 and playing Livy, obviously pro youth and that, you can yourself scouts for all over the country come and watch loads, just obviously try to find the best players. So I think Man United were watching me along with like loads of other clubs like Bolton, Blackburn, stuff like that. Man United were watching me and they approached Livingston and said like, oh, we'd like to look at this kid, we want to take him down for a couple of days, let him train with us, watch a game and that, look after him and just, do you know what I mean? So maybe we'll keep an eye on him over the future, and that was it basically. So they never told me, maybe I don't know, 6 weeks, a couple of months later, they spoke to my old man and said, listen, has Livingston spoke to you about what we said to him? And he's obviously saying like, what are you talking about? So it turns out like they speak to my old man, they invite me down just to train, see the facilities, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff, as a lot of players do now. It's quite common. So I said to Livingston, oh, I'm going to go and do it, and they were like, well, no you're not. And I was like, well, hang on a minute, well, what's my man saying this? He's 11 years old, he's a kid, he's going to go and of course he's going to go.
Of course,
and they were basically saying, listen, if he goes, we'll pursue it and like take it to SFA. So anyway, I went, comes back up, Livingston then say, well, you've breached your contract, I think it was a D form or whatever it was, you breached your contract. So they then banned me, or took me to SFA, then banned me for signing with any club for 2 years. It was 2 years. So I had to go around for 2 years playing 3 games with clubs. So it was like Edinburgh City, Alloa, Cowden Beef, Hibs, loads of clubs just for 3 weeks. Meet all the new lads, 3 weeks right, 7 seasons later, going to meet another bunch of boys.
Is that what happened now?
That's what happened, mate. And then we were going to take them, we went to see Lord, we were going to take them to court for obviously like sort of breaching human rights. Again, 11 years old, mate, you kind of what it's like when, imagine going to meet 30 new boys or 20 new boys every 3 weeks and that. Like, I was a nervous wreck of it, like thinking, oh, I've only got a week here left and I'm going to have to go to another club. I'm shitting myself, I'm going to have to meet new boys. And at that age as well, it's a bit like...
Especially for your parents as well, knowing that you're having to go through that.
Exactly. So we looked at like kind of pursuing like a human rights thing and that, but it turns out it was just going to be too much of a ball ache, and we ended up thinking it was maybe going to impact on me later down the line. And I said to you that I'd never been picked for Scotland, never, like, not obviously not now, but like 16, 17s, 18s, 19s, never. And obviously at the time, I would say I was more than good enough to play for them. There was boys playing in my position that weren't as good as me. And as I say, I don't know if that impacted on it. It probably did.
I would say it probably did.
So that was it, and do you know what I mean? 2 years, and then I think after that, I don't know even where I went after that. I went to Celtic after that, and then obviously things blew over. But it was a hard time. And being at that age, mate, I was just saying to you, it was like that's what happens if you get a piece of meat at the end of the day. It's a business. If you're playing well, you do it. If you're not, you're fucking whatever kind of thing. But to experience it that early in football. Like it was shocking.
Livingston should have been doing whatever they could to make sure you were happy, you know, like for someone like Man United to want one of their players
100%.
At that age, they should have been doing everything.
Because again, what happens if I go down like it down Man United, it's brilliant, and go back to Livingston and progress to a brilliant level, obviously I never, but progress to a brilliant level, then at 16 Man United say, well listen, there's 200-300 grand for this player, we might want to take him. Which obviously it would never have happened, but who knew?
Who's to say it wouldn't? I mean, that could have impacted you, like on your development then too. That time.
100% it did. I would never make excuses, but I'd never have developed the same rate as I would have if I was at stayed at Livingston and was happy for 2 years. Do you know what I mean?
It's a long time at that age.
100%, mate. I can remember like, and obviously going to like maybe Edinburgh City and Alloa and Cowden Beef, and the managers at the time just going like, oh, we'll just play ABC because you're only in for a few weeks sort of thing. So it certainly would have impacted me. But it just shows you, like you say, Livingston should have, in my eyes, should have done everything they could to make. Well, hopefully this could be a relationship that could blossom. Who knows? And it would have probably made money out of it.
Exactly.
But
I was just going to say, because of course, like a relationship they could have built. If it wasn't you that made the money, there might be another player from Livingston that would have, you know.
Exactly.
So I think that's embarrassing to say the least. Like
crazy, mate. Honestly, I was saying to you, I've still got like all the documents and paperwork for like honestly, it's about that size. Letters, lawyers, and it's mental, mate. And now and again, I'll go over it, have a read it, and be like, wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That would have been, I should probably just touch on that, would have done wonders for Livingston's reputation.
100%.
Yeah.
Because like I say, it might not be me, but it might have been another kid a year younger that Man United saw. He looks quite good as well. We'll take
Has
him.
anyone ever since then gone from Livingston to Man United?
I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you that.
Did that sour the relationship at all between Man U and Livingston?
Honestly, no idea. Because when I came back up, obviously, I managed to get released for Livingston, and then obviously that's when the ban kind of took place. But as soon as I came back up and all this, the started proceedings with that, we were just like, well, listen, obviously he wants to leave and he's not coming back, kind of thing. But listen, you'll probably know your boys yourself that have went down to English clubs to visit. That's all it is. Train it.
You hear that all the time. It goes on all the time.
Why would you?
Half the time they don't sign.
Yeah,
but let's say, I mean, why would you stop an 11-year-old kid going to Man United just to go and experience it? Like,
honestly, mate, it was surreal.
Crazy. I don't know what to bring the full story up, but I just wanted to say it. That's crazy, mental, absolutely nuts. So we're getting some of the weekend football. Some games down south, some games up here.
Yep.
Leeds scoring plenty of goals.
Very.
They
look very good.
Good side. It's like Bielsa.
I think he's brilliant. I mean, touching on that, they're scoring plenty, they're conceding plenty as well. Like,
it's always a way,
they're going to have to work on stuff at the back, but I mean the way they've started like pressing games and pressing teams has been brilliant. People like Bamford and that, questions were like asked of him as a Premier League player. He's brilliant in the Championship, can he do it in the Premier League? But he started off brilliant, you know. So.
I'm surprised, like, listen, a great team, but I'm surprised, like, with obviously the pressure of them coming up with such a big club and they've been out obviously the league for however many years, a long time, to come back up. I thought they would maybe start like very
cautious.
Very cautious, but obviously it's been kind of the flip side and been entertaining, like, but like you say, they kind of go on. I don't
think you could even naturally, like, as much as we talk about Premier League players being ultra fit, I don't think you could play like that every game. Do you know what I mean?
No way.
What would you think of that if you were players?
For me, being a defender, I would hate to play in games like 4-3s every weekend. No chance.
See, me as a midfielder, I would love it because I hated tracking runners, so I'd just be fuzzy.
Okay, going back. Nah, man, I would take 1-0s all day long.
Their clean sheet bonus must be massive.
Oh,
it must be huge. Like,
I know. They've got some good players there, like, to be fair. There's some really good players. And, I think they'll be more than good enough to stay up. I don't think they'll be anywhere near the top, like, but I think they'll
I think it'll be one of the ones that they'll go through, like, there'll be spells where they'll be unbelievable and then they'll get beat.
6 weeks without a win.
I think it'll be like that. I think maybe struggle for the consistency, but mate, if it's going to be, it makes for entertaining. It's an entertaining game, isn't it? And it's one you're going to watch. So if it's going to stay like that, then I'm happy to keep watching it.
And that's another one. Knowing we were just talking before we come on the show, like, about there being no fans at the games. It obviously makes that. For me and you, we were both saying the game feels a little bit false in a way. Do you know what I mean? People trying things. Would the games be this high scoring if there's fans there? Do you know what I mean? Because you were saying when fans are there, it creates that like uneasiness on the pitch and that, and it makes people doubt what they're going to try and stuff. Would it be this open? I don't know.
I don't think it would. Like they say, if you're playing. Do you know what I mean? If they're playing at home and they're conceding 3 goals, regardless of scoring and that, the crowd gets on your back, and not necessarily that you kind of deal with that pressure, but it makes you play your game differently, as you know. Like if I'm a defender and the game's frantic and the crowd's going and that, and there's a ball, I am not going to maybe, come inside and start playing at my centre mid, it's going up there. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting my back.
You were never coming inside.
Fucking hell, mate.
Shut up.
No, I'm kidding. But you know what I mean, exactly that. I think it does make the games false. Now you can only obviously play with kind of what's in front of you. That's what the way it's going to be. But I don't think what the games would be anywhere that
and there's less pressure on them completely now with no fans being on all the teams.
Exactly. Like you say, if you're playing a reserve game, like even like you're saying, I'm not coming inside and that, but even me, you play differently.
Yeah, you do.
It's a natural thing. You do play differently. So it'll be interesting to see if the fans do come back later in the year and that, and what happens to the way teams like that are going to play.
Definitely. Another result that was a bit like a shock, to be fair, considering the start of the bud. Newcastle
Aye, that was
absolutely pumped.
the kid at right back. This Lamptey they got from Chelsea for Brighton, absolutely unbelievable. Like he was one of them that was. I think Chelsea were desperate to keep him, but he thought he'd never play. Hardly ever play. I think he only played one game, and he's gone to Brighton. He's been absolutely incredible. And on Saturday, he just ripped Newcastle apart. Right back, he was just bombing on crosses everything. It was unbelievable. But Newcastle, that's like I was saying last week. Being a Newcastle fan for years, we've had this this way we think of ourselves that we're bigger than what we are. Do you know what I mean? Because of the past experiences. Now it's starting to get that realisation of where we are, and I think Newcastle are going to have these. They'll play well one week, be poor the next. I think it's just that there was no kick-offs after the game. Normally, if that was a few years ago, it'd be Bruce out, Ashley out. You know what I mean? Just kind of realising, well, you know what, we're not going to be like that. Exactly. And as much as from the outside, it's probably a shock. Brighton winning 3-0 at Newcastle. To me, I still think that is, but it's not. I think Newcastle are similar to Brighton, you know, in terms of ability and where they are. And so to get beat 3-0 obviously at home is disappointing, but it's not one that we should be. Oh God,
I think it's similar with Man United. I think it's similar with Man United, Waluna. I really do. Like Man United is still obviously one of the biggest and best clubs in the world, but it's like similar to Rangers as well. Obviously they're picking up now, but it was like before. You think if let's say Hibs drew Rangers, you think, oh, Hibs beat Rangers, you think, oh, fucking hell, Hibs beat Rangers or Hearts beat Rangers or something like that, but it's the realisation that Rangers are only what they were. I think Man United are not really going to be what they were for a long time. And I think like Man United, say getting beat off, you know, a mid-table team, but before you, I can mind watching Match of the Day sort of 10 years ago, you were thinking like, Man United, come on, oh, they must have won. Whereas I think that's a way. I think it's very similar to like Newcastle, what they would have had in the past, and the size of the stadium, the size of the club, but about what's actually on the pitch. I think it's changed a lot.
You're right. That's remembering what's on the pitch. You know what I mean, players wise. Like, man, you getting beat 3-1 off Crystal Palace at the weekend is a shock on paper to the world. Do you know what I mean? But when you look at the players on the pitch, like Zaha and that would walk straight in the Man U's team. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
The other kid they got from, who was it? Is it Ezra or someone they got in the summer? Unbelievable. Like these, Ezra, QPR, class players. Do you know what I mean? Like these. For me, that wasn't a shock. Seeing Man U, you kind of expected it.
You didn't think they were going to be 3-1, but I think if you see Man United are playing Crystal Palace, like you can't watch like in group chats, you think, well, who's going to win? Before it'd be, oh, Man United win. But now it's like, well, Crystal Palace had a decent outfit.
Counter-attacking and stuff like that. So, I think obviously it was disappointing from my point of view. Newcastle losing 3-0. You never want to lose 3-0 at home, but it's also they're saying, well, we're not going to be at the top end of the table. Do you know what I mean?
So it's no panic stations yet.
Not 2 years ago it would have been, but now it's just well, move on to the next one. Do you know what I mean?
You see the Liverpool Chelsea game yesterday. I thought Chelsea were horrendous. I thought Liverpool were good, but my God, Chelsea just looked slow, lethargic.
I don't think what's helping them at Chelsea at the minute is because you'll know better than me actually, being a defender. If you've got a top keeper behind you, I think that just breeds confidence, especially 100%. For your back four. 100%. Chelsea at the minute, because they've got that Kepa, his confidence is gone. Like it's completely shot. Do you know what I mean? He probably is a good goalkeeper. There was obviously something good in him to pay 70 million for. But the manager doesn't want him. Obviously, there's no fans there. Imagine there was fans there and he's making these mistakes. Oh my God, like it'd be horrendous for him. And for the team. But I think that's not helping that situation. Do you know what I mean? I think,
as you say, it just as much as. Do you know what I mean? If a team's off the back of 3 or 4 clean sheets, it's almost inevitable that until a certain point, it's like if we have 3 clean sheets, you win a game, you think like, oh, we're comfortable. Like whatever we face, we'll manage to deal with. But on the flip side of that, it's like if your keeper's made a couple of bad mistakes a couple of the previous weeks, it breeds like a real uneasy feeling. Like, so, I mean, if someone's like, if cross is coming in, it just creates that kind of like that extra
negativity.
Yeah.
Is that as soon as the team's out? Would you?
I think it can literally be on anything. As soon as you can concede a corner and think, shit.
That's it. Especially like I've been there before. We played Hearts. We got beat 2-1 I actually scored in the game at Easter Road, but I was marking Cal Patterson, and 20 minutes I think he scored a header. Then 10 minutes later with another corner he scored another one, and I was picking him up. And for the rest of the game, every time there was a corner, I was fucking shitting myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that feeling, if that's a couple of boys have got that feeling, it does it spreads
Breeds
very
around
quickly,
everyone,
very quickly. Especially like let's say your keeper's made a couple of mistakes, crosses coming in the box, long throws and that, and you'll see teams try and capitalise on it. If the keeper's only playing well, they'll be like, maybe not so much Liverpool, but especially like at whatever level was, like they'll play on that, like it'll be put everything on the keeper, put this, and
he'll be saying that, and he'll be hearing that, and it's even worse. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And the mistake keeper made, 9 times out of 10, a confident keeper there just smashes it straight up the pitch. But he's probably overthinking it in his head, like, I need to like show I can play. And just passes it straight to them, you know. So he's probably making decisions he wouldn't normally make when he's confident, you know. So I think that didn't help them. And obviously Liverpool, and Thiago was just unbelievable.
Yeah, man,
like
he was good. He looked good. He looked good.
Very good football player.
Very quick feet. Very, like for a set, there's quick feet, but my God, it was rapid. It was just like touch. And
yeah, he's so enjoyable to watch. Like again, like it's more your position, and I'm more like a defender. Like I didn't probably appreciate the football as much as other football players do, but when you watch him, it's unbelievable. It's like his ability and composure, and that's just
it's just unbelievable.
Yeah,
he just controlled the game the second half, like when he was on. Couldn't get near him.
Who do you fancy to win the Premier League?
I'm saying Liverpool again. I think this, if they keep, obviously I think it's about keeping that front three fit. We were saying Jota as well, which I think is a good sign, brilliant sign. He looks the type that could just fit in for, like, especially for Salah or Mane, like on the wings. Do you know what I mean? But Thiago midfield, I think that's just, I can't believe that no one else, I don't know whether other teams tried.
People will try to get him or whatnot.
I know he's 29 and they paid, but they haven't paid that much in terms of.
In the grand scheme of things nowadays.
You know, what is it, 25 million or something? Something like that.
That's not a lot of money. Like at that level, it's a lot of money, obviously.
But look what Tottenham are paying 20 million for Bale's loan fees. Do you know what I mean? So 25 million for a top player.
And I think I don't know if he's underrated, but as you say, I thought like there'd be a lot more hype around him.
Yeah, there's not been.
Which is strange. I quite fancy Liverpool as well. I think like with the manager they've got, and I kind of see him like letting standards slip, and like the nucleus of the team I think is very strong. They can obviously score goals, and they showed they can keep clean sheets, and I think we obviously having the confidence of winning the league last year. I think that'll kind of steady.
Yeah, definitely.
Being detrimental this season, I think that'll push them on and get to go again, kind of thing.
And you just look at their spine. I think they've got the best, like the spine of the team. Alisson, Van Dijk, Henderson, Thiago, Firmino. And then you start to think filling in players elsewhere. You build your team around the spine, but then they've got Salah, Mane, Robertson, Alexander Arnold, Joe Gomez. I mean, that's like. You'd struggle to find better players in each position in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? So they've got the full thing, aren't they? Then players to come in like Jota. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just a top team.
Man, I love him. I don't know what you.
I think he's the best in the world for me. Like
you never know what the relationship is like behind closed doors and that, but you can see that like feel like he'd be a very good like manager. Like if you like even if you're playing shit and that, I think he would tell you, but.
He'd support you.
Yeah, I think like he's got a real love for his players.
Comes across as well, even when you're watching it on TV or that. It comes across as that. It doesn't come across as false or like pretend. Like
I think in football you can have relationships with players and that. Like it's a good dressing room, but like the lads are all right, kind of thing. Or you can have a dressing room that like you do everything together. And I think that goes a long way when boys are like really invested in each other, and that's the way Liverpool looks like. They're properly invested in each other. I think that's only going to go one way for them, to be honest.
He'll probably only be signing players that he thinks will fit in that.
Well, I seen
with a group
one today that supposedly getting Dembele from Barcelona. Obviously, he had him in Dortmund. You know what I mean? So he'll know exactly what he's saying. Imagine that signing as well. I mean, it's just incredible.
I agree with you. I think Liverpool will retain it. I did fancy Chelsea as maybe an outsider, just with the players that they had signed. But
do you know what? A lot of people said that Chelsea, and I even thought for a while with it because they've signed quality players. But you know yourself when you're in a change room and you sign 5, 6, 7
Hard,
players,
man.
it's hard to then
So
integrate
hard.
them.
Straight
Do you know what I
away.
mean? Like,
regardless of the level.
because when you talk about Liverpool, they're invested in each other. It takes a while to get to know everyone.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
100%. Especially to that level.
At that level, yeah.
Mm.
And especially the way the world is at the minute, you can't do anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't exactly go out after training and mix with each other. They're actually just going in and coming away. And,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Right.
Not even some of them probably haven't even spoke to each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Or even shook hands because
Yeah.
everyone's fist pumping on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you don't know anyone, so I think it'll take a while for Chelsea.
Exactly. It's a good way to look at it as well. Like, especially obviously at that level, it's always so many walks of life. Do you know what I mean? Different countries and language barriers, and that makes it even more difficult as well.
Yeah.
It's not like in Scotland everyone's British, kind of more or less.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
difficult for them.
One result I did see as I was flicking through, doing my world-class research, as always, Stevenage absolutely smashed Oldham 3-0.
I've seen that.
Some result. Have been asked back for half-time draw or anything like that? It just caught my eye, mate, and I thought I'd ask.
No, I've
That was about as far as my question was going to get.
I know. The only time I got asked, obviously, went back to Stevenage after I signed for them, but since then I've never even drove through there. You know what I mean?
I doubt you're missing much, mate, to be
No.
fair. Another result I did see in League Two. This is proper boring for anybody that's not into like English football. And they're just here to listen to yourself. They must
Don't
be-
be many.
One result I did see was Salford. Obviously spent an absolute bomb. They beat Grimsby 4-0.
Mhm.
When you've been playing, has there been any clubs not that you've been at, but any clubs
Spent a fortune.
who's spent a fortune and maybe bought their way through the league, because they have bought their way through the league.
Dundee,
Let's-
man, we've got to cut this thing, Charlie. I don't know much we spent there.
We'll come on to that. Come on to that soon.
When I was at Aberdeen, Gretna were in the Premier League.
Yeah,
And
mate.
it was the season that fell apart. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they spent a fortune to get there. And the game we played them, they literally sent a youth team up that had just gone, you know. So there was them. There was a team in England, Forest Green. They were at one point.
They've always spent a bit though. Even I think now, like they're paying boys a good amount of money for where they are. To be fair.
They were one that were like really chucking money at the conference you had lads from say like lower end League 1 and League 2 going there and picking up.
Yeah.
They're a vegan
4 or
club as
5
well,
grand. Exactly. Yeah.
Vegan club.
So that's why they pay you the money. They can't afford to just a meeting. You know what I mean?
It's crazy some of the money here. We played the Ebbs fleet in the FA Cup a couple of seasons ago. And one of the boys was saying there was a couple of their boys there on 2.5, 3 grand a week in Ebbs fleet. It was like, I'd never even heard of them.
Is that conference prem?
I couldn't even tell you.
They might have even been Conference South.
There you go. And honestly, there was a couple of boys that like apparently there were decent players that were again League 1, League 2.
Yeah.
Dropped down and picking up 2.5, 3 grand a week and that. So it's
That's
crazy.
mad.
Like, I've never been lucky enough to land in one of these clubs at the right time, to be honest with you.
But didn't Salford with Adam Rooney? Wasn't I'm sure it was near Aberdeen.
Yeah.
He was on serious money there, no? At Salford.
Is he still there? Has he gone? He's gone to what team is it now?
Is it the conference?
Some other team in the conference that's chucking money and supposedly he's on the same money there. Do you know what I mean? So
It's crazy, mate.
This-
Boys that do that just float about.
They signed Ian Henderson for Rochdale, and he was like a club legend
Yeah.
at Rochdale. He scored loads of goals in League 1, League 2 for them, and then he fell out with Rochdale. For some reason he tried to force a move, and the fans just went for fucking from a legend to despise him because he just chased
Very
chased
easily
him.
done, isn't it?
But then we've discussed it before.
What money? Listen to me. It's a topic on football that I really enjoy speaking about it because people, you can what it's like. They think like football's an amazing sport to play. It's a job. It's amazing. You're very, very lucky. But fucking someone says there's £1,000 a week, or someone says there's £2,000 a week. Well, because the fans like me and they didn't want me to leave and that, and I've got a decent relationship with the manager, I'm sure he'll understand that I've got a family and I've got an extra fucking £4 grand a month. I'm taking £2 grand a week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And listen, there'll be some circumstances that boys have made loads of money that didn't necessarily need it, but at our level as well, you didn't make enough money in the game to make sure you're fine. Like, do you know what I mean? You still, as soon as you finish, you need to work. So you need to make the right decision, of course, on the pitch. You know what, when sit on the bench, well, unless it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's putting food on the table.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's buying your house.
yeah,
And people, I think it's so strange that people in this day and age really struggle to see that.
yeah.
It's scary.
Because the majority of footballers, unless you're in the Premier League, majority of footballers, when they finish their career, you'll be lucky if they can afford to have a month off of
Yeah.
doing out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll have to go and do something straight away. You'll have to have something in place.
Yeah,
So I think we spoke about Rodwell, like a few weeks
yeah.
ago. Like that's obviously the other end of the
Yeah,
spectrum.
yeah,
But
yeah.
if you've got a contract on 70 grand a week to then walk away from that to go somewhere for 10, well, you'd be stupid if you did it.
Of course you
Do you know
would.
what I mean? So I think people get carried away when they say footballers, they're only in it for the money. Well, that's part of the reason why you are in it.
Yeah,
you know,
of
because
course. It's
you're good at what you do and you enjoy it.
Oh.
But if, just say you were playing fuzzy right and you were on, I don't know, £100 a week, right, at a football club, and you got offered £250 a week to be a fireman.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
you would go and do that, wouldn't
Of
you?
course
Do
you would,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like
Why would you not?
it's just a no-brainer. So
know.
you kind of, unless I think you're a young kid trying to make their way in the game.
Yeah, of course there's exceptions.
There's different ways about it, you know. But if you're halfway through your career and you're being offered good contracts somewhere, maybe at a lower level, say like a Salford or whatever, and you've got an opportunity with Aberdeen to play, I don't know, in the SPL and maybe qualify for the Europa League and that, at 30-year-old. Well, sorry, like I'm taking that £5 grand a week.
Of course,
do you know what I mean? Like
100%, mate. And money isn't the be all and end all, but it plays a fucking big factor.
Yeah.
And as you say, if it's fucking 150, 200 quid a week, 250, 300 quid a week, it's different. But if someone's saying, like, if you're happy at a club and someone says, oh, there's 300 quid a week, but we might play here, and you're happy and you're settled, and fair enough, and you're enjoying it, you like the manager, you're playing and whatnot, there's a difference. But if someone says, like, say 500 quid a week or 1500 quid a week,
you're almost quadrupling your wage.
Exactly,
like,
mate. It's scary. You imagine asking a brickie, like, do you want to work? Do you want to work for? I'll be your boss. I'll give you 400 quid a week, or go and work privately and earn £1,000 a week. What are you then?
It's a no-brainer.
Exactly.
Of course it is, mate.
Exactly.
Brings us on nicely to a story that I've seen just today. Billy Key, I don't know if you've maybe played as well.
Billy,
Played
I've
against
heard of
him.
him,
Played at Accrington.
Good player.
Yeah, scored a lot of goals. And he's now a bricklayer.
Yeah. I read something about that actually quite a while ago.
Uh-huh.
Did he suffer? Was it? What did he
Depression
suffer?
and that,
Depression,
yeah.
yeah.
I think he had suffering with depression, anxiety, bulimia as well.
He was quite a heavy lad, like
He
when
was,
he played
yeah.
in that.
And he was saying, I think he retired at 29. Again, I think the fans loved him.
Aye, but no, he was a very, like, he played there for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah,
And he was loved. Played against him a couple of times to be fair.
I think he was just a story saying how he's so much happier. He plays non-league, like 7th tier, but he said final game of the season after Accrington that stayed up. They travelled to Portsmouth. He said it's faked an injury. Just couldn't get anything worse to play.
That must be horrendous. I mean,
Being
for
in
me,
that.
I'm one of these people that believe that you live your life in your head. Do you know what I mean? If you're not happy in your head,
100%.
then you're not going to be happy in what you're doing, you know. So
100%.
for him to be actually in a privileged position,
Yeah.
like to play football, to then not wanting to do it purely because he's got these emotions or everything going on in his head, I think it's a real shame, you know.
Certainly, it's scary to think, like you say, because you only see what's on the, like, do you know what I mean? You only see it on face value, and you're playing football again, very privileged, it's a great life, you didn't have to work too hard in terms of, you know, your boys working 12-hour shifts and that, coming in, go to bed and getting up and doing it again, fucking 365 days a year. So it is a privileged life, and I advocate that, I really do appreciate how much it is, but doesn't mean to say people didn't still suffer with stuff. And you know, even the pressure, like even if it's League 2 football, some people doesn't make them a bad person or a bad football player, but if they're unable to deal with the pressure, maybe the judgment of people, or like the pressure for the manager, or maybe what's going on in the changing room or something like that, there's so many things, and it's scary to see that, you know, so many people suffer with it. And I think it is something that's so hard to talk about, because for me, I think I would really know. I don't think I've suffered with anything like that. So how do you know? Do you know what I mean? So it's sad to see, and obviously it's good on him that he's came out and said that, and he's saying he's happy in Lake Bricks, which is, if he's happy, then brilliant.
But then, do you know what? Like, just going back to your time at Livingston, when they treat you the way they did. Do you know what I mean? Like with stopping that Man United thing, and then also you couldn't play football for 2 years. That could have sent you like completely you could have went
100%. See if it was like say you're maybe 21, right, and obviously you're more aware of your emotions. As a kid, you're just kind of like, you're a kid, and you're playing and just kind of running about life kind of thing, and I don't think you're as aware. But I think if it happened later on in someone's career, not just necessarily me, but I think it would have a much bigger
effect,
a bigger impact, like, because you would understand it more, and you would think like, fucking hell, like, and I think it really would have a proper detrimental effect, like. So maybe a blessing it happened younger age, whatever, but no, it's certainly a topic in football, in any walk of life, to be fair, but in football it's obviously, you know, I think it's like with the gay thing, I didn't see any gay footballers or sportsmen and that. I think it's such a taboo topic. It's obviously coming out more, it's more acceptable now, kind of thing. People are accepting it more, as maybe 10 years ago think something, oh, you can't fucking deal with it, you're a fucking shitebag.
You're a funny,
so hopefully it keeps going that way, because people obviously should be able to speak about it. And I think as well with managers, you don't want to see your manager. I know it's stupid, but like, you don't want to see your manager. Listen, I'm struggling, and do you know what I mean? I had it last year, like when I was living up here alone. I was like, after the game, if you're not playing that, like, it's shite going home at your cell, and it can be difficult. So I think it should be, it should be a more normal thing to do, to speak about your emotions, especially in a game like football or any sport kind of thing.
100%, totally agree. I'm not a player, but I think maybe some supporters who they pay to see for an hour and a half, and just absolutely.
It's quite annoying as well, because you guys, it was like the abuse you take, which is part and parcel of it, and for me it doesn't affect me too much, but for other people it will. And for people, like, if people shout and say whatever they want to say, and then maybe it comes out a couple of weeks, ex-player was suffering with this and that, and then they want to try and be like, oh, are you alright and that, but these are people part of the reason that they think they can just say what they want to. Human beings at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? I think that's part and parcel with the problem, that supporters think they can just speak to, maybe not in the stands because it's emotional, they're maybe frustrated, which is fine, but then to go home and sit and have a couple of beers and think, I'm going to fucking message this guy, you're a fucking, well, you didn't deserve to wear a shirt, you fucking, do you know what I mean? You've probably had it. I've had like messages, I hope you wake up in a coffin and that, and just stuff like that.
You're sitting in your house.
Do you know what I mean?
You're
fair to see it again. Do you know what I mean? If you warm up, it says, oh, Forster, this, that. Fair enough, it's emotional and it's just a bit that. But when you go home, and grown men are going home, going, oh, I'm going to go on my phone and just abuse this guy for no reason.
No reason,
It's because I reckon it's because it's nameless. And it can be photos, and it can be anonymous.
Yeah, what human being thinks it? I mean, I could never think this. I seen a traffic warden in the street be like, give me a ticket, I'd be like, oh, you're a fucking dick. But I wouldn't go home and be like, oh, look this guy up. Why would you do that?
I know. It's as if people feel they've got a right to say it to footballers. Do you know what I mean? I think because we are in such a privileged position, there's a lot of jealousy around it, you know, so I think that's why they feel they can say certain things, you know. I was watching that Tottenham documentary, bits of it, where Eric Dyer climbed into the stands. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Do you know, like, I think he's a terrible footballer. I've said on this, but I thought fair play to him. Do you know, he was just like, this, just climbed in there. Do you know what I mean? The fans giving him so much abuse at the end of the game in front of his family and that. Yeah,
especially like when you say it, I mean, you're involved in like families and stuff like that. I mean, if you've got kids and that, imagine your kids seeing, like, they didn't understand everything, and this person just gets to. It's a horrible. It can be a really horrible world to be in. To be fair.
And then you block them, or you reply, and then they screenshot that, and then they've got exactly what they want. It's mad. It's mad. It's crazy.
You just expected to take it, I suppose.
That's it. And then you wonder why some people. It isn't obviously the sole reason, but you wonder why some people do suffer with depression and stuff like that when they've got people fucking saying they hate them and this and that, and then do you know what I mean? No wonder.
Exactly.
I think it's the highs and lows of footy. The highs, you know yourself, when you won the Scottish Cup, the highs is the highest you can ever be, and the lows of, say, a relegation. Do you know what I mean? Or a bad performance. You're hyped up to be like this brilliant player. Next week you're the worst player. You know what I mean? I always tell parents of the kids I coach and stuff, if you can get, when you play well, like, right, I played well, but look at what you did bad as well. Do you know what I mean? And when you play bad, look at the things you did well, because you'll never for 90 minutes everything will be bad. Do you know what I mean? If you can keep yourself on that level field of, in between both of good and bad, I think you'll be completely fine.
Yeah.
I experienced massive highs and mega lows in my
Yeah.
career, and I struggled at the start. When I started getting the lows of injuries and things, I really struggled. So it took me maybe a few years to build back up to that level playing field again, and then I think that is something that helps.
Probably about the best bit of advice you put, especially with you coaching it. You say, then never get too high, never get too low, because you can like I've played like growing up. You've been this probably a lot of people probably do it. Growing up, and maybe you're 17s, 18s, right? You've had a terrible game, you've had a couple of stinkers and that, and your manager says something, and you've went and like, I'll just look for jobs or whatever. I've done that. Like I really have. I went on maybe I'm not going to be a football player, and it's like you've played 90 minutes of football, you've kicked a bag of air about, and you've played pretty shit, but you're going home thinking, I'm never ever going to be a football player. Or you win a league or you play well where you score in it, and then somewhat like you get carried away, and then when you do get brought back into earth, you're fucking through the floor. So like you say, try to be constant. That's probably one of the most important things you can say to someone growing up, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's got to be. I feel anyway, because you do. I think you live your life in your head. So if you're happy in your head and you're normal in your head, then you'll live a normal life. You'll be happy, even if when things are going bad, you'll know how to deal with it.
Definitely. Well, on a cheerier note, got our first sponsor. 6 episodes in.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a start. We're getting there. We're very, very appreciative of the support.
Massively grateful.
Hopefully, Craig, the team at Silver Lining, massive thank you to them. If you're needing any debt advice at all, go check them out. Silver Lining Debt Relief, great team. They'll help you out. Obviously, a lot of people have been on furlough, things like that.
Problem right now, isn't it, really?
Yeah, they'll come and help you reduce hours, things like that. It's not a taboo subject. Go see them; they'll definitely help you out.
Yeah.
Great guys. We've had contact with them. About
Very
becoming
easy
a
to speak
sponsor.
to.
Sound guys. So Craig and the team, go speak to them. Go see them on www.silverliningdebtrelief.co.uk. Drop them an email, info@silverliningdebtrelief.co.uk. Give them a WhatsApp at 07754 054 301, or give them a phone on 0141 473 5200.
Well done.
We have recorded the advert, but we can't get it in at the moment. So when it's me and you, we'll put the advert in there. So I hope the team don't mind us giving them a plug on the YouTube, because he was asking. So one a cheer.
We've got all the numbers out in the right order, by the way.
I know, especially.
I would not have got it.
Numbers aren't my strong point. Trust me. So as we said at the start, what's the expectations for Dundee this season then?
I think the same as last year. We spoke obviously briefly about a month ago when I won it. Promotion. Now obviously we'd like that to be automatic, but you know, Reelers Hearts are going to be a strong outfit this season. Obviously, as are we. I know there's going to be other teams in the league that are going to be up there as well. But we kind of go into the season thinking either way getting promoted, and obviously we would like that to be automatically. But it will be difficult. Hearts are a big team, and I'm sure they'll be good this season. But as I say, we are solely focused on what we can do. Going into every single game, I think every club will operate that way, but we do believe that we've now got some really good players in. Obviously building on the back end of the last season before everything got shut down, we do fancy our chances. Yeah.
Obviously, just you mentioned before briefly Charlie Adam. What's he been like?
Really good, mate. I think people coming through that level and that calibre of person, you've always probably wrongly got that preconceived
judgment.
Especially in football, you see a lot of characters, and a lot of them are very similar if they've come from a certain level, but hats off to him. He's been really good, really nice guy first and foremost, and obviously his ability level is through the roof, and you obviously you've watched him and you think like he's took a lot of stick, maybe being a bit immobile and heavier and can't really get about, but obviously training with him and played with him, like I think maybe playing at the ultra elite, maybe it looks that way, but certainly coming to our level, like he can move perfectly well, and he's obviously got a wonder left foot, and he looks in fairly good shape, to be fair to him. So it's obviously going to strengthen us this season. obviously him and Dawes in the middle as well, two very experienced and very, very good football players. So obviously looking forward to what's to come.
Has he been a bit of a leader in his game?
Certainly, I think obviously where he is in his career, like I think he's probably looking into. I don't think right
How
now.
old is he now? Is he about mid-30s? Or is he as old as that?
No, I think he's maybe 30.
33, yeah, about that age.
I think. I'm not saying he's obviously looking at management right now, but it will certainly be in his head. So I think when obviously he's playing the manager, we'll be speaking of the manager. But I think certainly after games and analysis and stuff, he'll certainly have a lot to say to try and help and give his take, as everybody does. But I think he'll have maybe a little bit more so.
Yeah, great signing.
Great guy. Lucky enough to play. Well, I'd say lucky enough, unlucky enough to play against him a couple of times because he's one of them. Like you say, he looks heavy in that thing, but he can move. Do you know what I mean? And he's strong.
He's very strong.
Very strong. He gets that arm
muscled
and
me
smashes
the
you in
other
that.
day, mate. I took some stick for it, but
Aye.
I try to the ball was coming obviously, and I thought I would try and nip in, and he's obviously used his body, and I just went, oh no. We played small sided games the other day as well, and every time obviously it's 15, you're shooting for 15 yards out, the ball's leaving this guy's foot, it's hitting the net before the keeper's moved. He's serious power in his left foot.
Must give you a wee buzz as well, signing a player like that.
Definitely. I think more for maybe the fans, especially after everything that's went on. I think for the fans more than anything, and maybe even the club, to have a name like that come in. Obviously with the players and that, it's great to have big names and good players coming in, but certainly for the fans, I think it's really kind of brightened up their last 6 months. Obviously with boys having to take cuts and a lot of people losing their jobs at Dundee because it isn't as financially stable and as secure as maybe the other bigger clubs in Scotland. I think it's been really good for them, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely. You're when we met the first time, had the fixtures been released?
Just I don't know if they had. I don't know if they had, because I'm sure we mentioned it, obviously Hearts' first game.
Yeah, you can tell my research has been superb again, but I listened back to the first one. But that'll be a massive game. Tynecastle, first game of the season.
Huge, mate. Obviously it's just sad there's not going to be any fans.
That'll benefit you a wee bit?
I don't think so. Maybe a little bit at home. I experienced it at Hibs as well, that again, if your things aren't going very well and Dundee being a big club, the fans expect a lot and stuff like that, so maybe it might help slightly at home. I'm not sure, but especially away from home, I don't think it'll. I think it'll probably be detrimental again. Do you know what I mean? The atmosphere, especially at Tynecastle, you've played it. Obviously,
it is a good atmosphere there. Obviously, the fans are close to the pitch and that.
It's very good. Obviously, they're quite high. They're right on top.
On top,
So it'd be sad there'd be no fans there, but I think it's probably the perfect game for us to go and try and make a statement in the league. They'll be thinking exactly the same thing, obviously, but. It's probably the two back teams that are to get promoted this season, I would imagine. So it'll be an interesting affair. Yeah,
definitely good opportunity, as you say, to get off to a good start.
Exactly that.
And the pressure, I would say, is more on them going into this game than it is you.
As I say, I think for the outsider, they would be back to be promoted automatically. So they probably will hold most of the pressure. Which again is maybe a little bit better for us, to be honest.
So does that give you a wee bit more motivation to? I know that you wouldn't have motivation, obviously, but
I think
maybe that 5%.
Possibly. I think any team going into a game being an underdog, it gives you that. It's like when maybe teams, maybe like an Arbroath plays Dundee, they're going to try and up their game. And not say you necessarily think I'm going to try and play better this week, but it does maybe give you that extra split second that makes all the differences, So possibly, yeah.
It's your birthday in 2 days' time.
Yeah, I've done your fucking research. Jesus Christ.
World class research goes into this.
How old is he going to be then?
He's going to be 27, so we
27, maybe 37 by the looks of it. 27.
Trust me, you can see the grey hair for there on this. I would. With a head this big, it doesn't look great.
I've got a hat on.
Any plans?
Nah, to be honest. We're off. Obviously, we're playing Cove tomorrow night in a friendly, so.
Away.
This will be out.
It's over 45. So it'll be a long night. I think we'll get back into, I don't know what time, maybe 1:45, after 1:45. So hopefully, I've obviously got a new dog, but Axel, who's 6 months, so he'll be up at 6 o'clock, so I'll not get much of a long night.
I've seen you walking on the early doors.
Early
doors, I've been on
I seen him. He had him down the beach. Yeah.
His body clock doesn't stop for nobody, mate. So he'll be upright as a button. So I'll get away him. And not a lot, mate. Just can't watch like when you
It's
get
not a lot
bored.
to do it.
I'll get a bottle after shave. That'll be it.
Links Africa. There we go.
A wee set. It's coming that time of year, Christmas, man. We've even got shows in season, so we're going to make the most of that. Boys coming in with a new set. But nah.
Well, I wish you all the very best of the season, mate. I hope you do get promoted.
Thank you very much. Obviously, as do I.
Nice to get yourself back in the Premier League as
100%, mate. It's obviously an aspiration of mine to try and get back up there, so hopefully it's this season.
Definitely, mate. Final feature, winners and losers. So I don't know if you've listened to
I've seen some of the polls on Twitter.
That's just me, my fake accounts voting for myself.
He's sponsoring the show.
Silver lining is actually me. So I've got one winner, one loser. Don't know how many you've got.
Same.
You got one as well. Do you want to go first? What do you want to do? And you pick the winner.
I'll put the winner.
Whoever you thinks is the best instead of the poll.
My first winner is going to be that I mentioned him briefly before. That Tariq Lamptey.
Oh right, okay.
Who do you think I was going to mention?
I'll tell you that.
I'm going to mention him. So for someone, when we're talking about maybe money and financial, this is a young kid who's coming through Chelsea and raved about, but realistic enough to think he's not going to maybe get the opportunities at Chelsea. There was Arsenal and Man United in for him, and he chose to go to Brighton. And honestly, I mean, I rave about Alexander-Arnold. I think he's unbelievable. Yeah. But this kid's going to like really push him. Like, I mean, he's been an incredible start for Brighton. And he just ripped Newcastle apart on Saturday. So I think someone to come in and take that, not many kids that would at that age, when you offered a 5-year contract to stay at Chelsea, probably, you're talking a lot of money. Probably has. I'm sure he's still on a hell of a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? We're not talking like.
But I think that's what we were talking about earlier. Like you say, he's got that. He's going to have the money there. It's going to come, but he's made the decision.
Taking the opportunity to go play first. So I think for someone so young to go and do that, I think speaks volumes of his personality, his belief in himself. And obviously now he's really expressing himself. You see the height he's getting. So obviously,
I think that's the one as well. Believing in himself. The fact that he's saying like the money might not come and whatever, but I know if I do it like the way I choose it, I believe that I will get back there, kind of thing. Definitely. So taking that step back, not necessarily a step back, he's playing every week in the Premiership, but in the grand scheme of things, probably that step back to go forward.
Definitely. So that's that for me.
Good one, that Josh. To be fair, it was decent. I'm going to go for Bielsa. I don't think he cares who he's playing against. He will play the way he wants to play. I love watching Leeds. I think they're class. Press high, full energy. I think they're great. I think they'll do well. I don't think we'll be Champions League or Europa League, but I think they'll be top half. I think they might have a wee run in the cup. But for me, I love him. I think he's class. He just doesn't really give a shit.
I love how when he comes out after games and speaks like in his own language. Like there's no chance he's doing that in the dressing room. He's just showing everyone he can't be speaking them, but he's speaking with players. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's brilliant how he does that as well.
His family is. I've been reading a tiny bit about his book. I've only started it, but it's his family background, mate. His mum's very. Again, my research is great because I can remember all of this. And his mum's like. She was like a school teacher, but his dad was like a university lecturer, but then went into politics in Argentina, for a rough part of Argentina as well. Same place as Messi, I can't remember what it's called, which is terrible.
These are all big guesses as well, like you said.
But his family's unbelievable. His
Mum's hairdresser, he starts flying.
Probably. And his brother and sister are high up in politics as well. I just think they're class. Rough part of Argentina as well. I wanted that, like a story like that.
My loser then. I don't know who this comes under a loser as. Is it Man United? Is it Evra? I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard this.
Yeah.
Like, I think, obviously, for those who are listening who don't know what happened,
it's comment up it.
The comment that Evra's made on Sky Sports. Do you know where he says asked him about Zaha and how he was obviously signed to as a young prospect and doing really well in that, and then he just vanished. And everyone said, he vanished because he slept with Moises' daughter. Do you know what I mean?
Horizontal reference.
So is that, and obviously the people on Sky didn't have a clue what to say, you know. So
how would you?
And everyone's since come out and he said, well, I seen his comment on Instagram today just saying he doesn't need Man United. He's just saying the truth. He loves Man United, so he doesn't need a job there or whatever. Because I think there was some ambassador role at the club and stuff as well. But I think it's great how he's come out and publicly said why he wasn't playing, you know, because obviously there's a lot of things that...
there's a lot of things people will be saying, wonder why.
Well, for many years, like Zaha's attitude was questioned, you know, like when he was at Man United and they let him go and he went to Cardiff and he wasn't really playing and people questioned his attitude. Well, he might have then got a negative, he might have became a bit depressed. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't know what he's going through. So he got slated for a couple of years, like, as to why Man U let him go. He probably could never come out and say because that would affect him in the future, he's thinking.
So he's his hands are tied.
His hands are tied, really, and he's just got to take that stick he's getting. I remember Giggs coming out and hammering him, saying his attitude was stinking and all this type of stuff. To me, it doesn't look like that.
No.
Do you know what I mean? He
and
England, he was with England, and then obviously England allowed him to go to Ivory Coast and then play. I think it was Ivory Coast.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
like allowed him to change over. Like we were talking a few weeks ago about in that England squad. I think you need players in positions that you can bring on and you've got something different rather than having like for likes everywhere. Zaha and Victor Moses for me were two that like England should never allow to change over. And Zaha now for me is one of the best wingers.
Yeah, he's fine.
Certainly in the Premier League, Europe. Do you know what I mean? And would walk into Man United's team now. Do you know what I mean? 100%. The majority of the top six he's walking into. So a loser, I'm gonna say Man United. I'm not going to blame Evra for that. I'm going to blame Man United for the way they allowed that to pan out.
I would like to know who told the presenter at the end that Zaha's never met David Moyes' daughter.
How would he know that? Do you know, they're just like clutching at stuff, you know what I mean? Like,
and who's going to be offended by that? Do you know what I mean?
But then that's probably going to... Do you know what that's going to then cause? That's going to cause banter and stick for Moyes at West Ham. In that dressing room. He's already struggling a bit at West Ham.
I never thought about that.
Do you know what I mean? Like that comment, as much as everyone's loving it because it's something to talk about, that's going to bring so much negativity towards Moyes and that. Do you know what I mean? He's already under pressure from what Noble said last week. Now someone's saying they slept with his daughter.
Listen, in that environment, it's been 30, 40 lads. Like, wow.
Exactly. Does that, and then you've got it, then it looks on a bigger thing, does that then affect Moyes' mental health and all that type of stuff? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, one comment is now going to set off so many different possibilities, you know, so, I'll say Man United.
Yeah. Two very well thought out ones compared to mine.
I know, they're
impressive
to be fair.
Go on, beat that, mate.
I was going to go for Souness because he just... Oh my god, I am boring. I've got the most boring voice in the world. Don't even know why I do this, to be fair. That's how boring it is. But Jesus, he just bores the life out of me.
Do you know what? I love him, mate.
I love Souness. Well, we don't know what it is.
I really like him. I really
He's very dry
like
and he's just...
I like the way it comes across. I really do.
For me, I just think he still thinks football's like the 90s and 80s.
I know what you mean, but I like how he doesn't really hold back.
No, I think he just, like you say, maybe his mind is a little bit stuck in, not necessarily the past, but a certain way of thinking. But because of that, he just says like, well, this is how I fucking think. So, do you know what I mean? He just goes with it. And then obviously a few that aren't fully in line with his beliefs in certain things, you might not like him, but I just think a bit like Roy Keane just comes out and says, this is it.
Good you said that. I love when they've got like Souness, Carragher and Roy Keane on one shot. You know whoever's at a beast is getting slated after that game.
Roy Keane's class. Roy Keane's
I think Roy Keane can act as well. I think he's brilliant. He's brilliant for the TV and that, but I think he puts it on as well sometimes. But I think with Souness, there's no filter. He just like that's him. You know what I mean? I think Keane can play on things a bit.
Did you hear any stories about his time at Sunderland as a manager?
It was one game we played them in the reserves, Middlesbrough, and we beat them 4-0 in the reserves. And my mate was playing midfield for Sunderland, and Keane was first team manager. When he come down after, they kept them in the changing room for 2 hours, just slating
The reserves?
reserves, slating them, how bad they were, and all this type of stuff. So he said that he could lose the plot, like really lose the plot.
Mate, I always like, see when I think about it, obviously football's changing now, but see like back then when you watch videos in games, you like they kind of clues like what would be. Imagine being in a dressing room like the Man United dressing room back then.
I know.
Intense it is.
Scary. Like it's scary.
No.
I honestly, I can't comprehend like how intense that would be. The expectation, like the
Constant, consistent.
scary thing to be.
They were all just driving each other on it.
Yeah.
They all were like that. But Keane epitomised that. Like
it was almost like that kind of, what was it, Michael Jordan documentary? What was it called?
Oh, the Bulls thing. That's just been on Netflix.
It was like that intensity. Like obviously in the football and dressing room, that they all would have been like that. And like it was just, would love to have like obviously I never would have, but I would love to experience something like that intense.
On a daily basis as well. So who's your winner?
I've got to go double bubble with Josh.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mine's not shit to me. Mine's not proper shit. I'll be back though. I'll be back. Thanks for coming on, mate. Much appreciated.
It's been a real pleasure, mate. Listen, I enjoy talking about football, so it's been a pleasure, mate.
Always welcome back.
No, cheers, Jordan.
Happy to come back anytime.
And anybody watching on YouTube, subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe, give it a like, and
give us a share.
Yeah, it was good.
And anybody who's listening to this on the audio, subscribe again on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, share it, give us a tweet, put us on your Instagram story. There's a lot of hard work that goes into this, as we said in the last one, especially getting this set up. And
I'm sat on a fire extinguisher. You know what I mean? So
we need to do the dungeon up, to be fair. The dungeon needs a revamp before we get the cameras back again. But no, thank you very much.
Honestly, lads, it's cheers for having me on. It's been a pleasure, guys.